Hello, everybody, and welcome in. As you can see behind me, it is game week, the game, the big one, probably the biggest one in the history of the series. There's a lot riding on this one. We've made it back. Welcome back into High Street Sports. Thank you guys for coming. Always remember, like, comment, subscribe. On our way to 100 subs, that would mean the world to us if you could help us get there. And what better occasion than the game? It's Thanksgiving week. It's getting cold. It's that time of year. My name is Chris. This is Vince. Welcome in. Vince, what's going on, man? How you feeling? What are the vibes here as we approach the game?
I'm excited. This is going to be a tough matchup. I think even though this will probably not be a 1 versus 2, I think this is still going to be bigger than the 2006 matchup dubbed the game of the century. And I believe that was the one and only one that I can remember that was at 3:30,
Mm-hmm.
was ending as it got fairly dark,
Yeah.
for it being November. I think that might be the play, if we could get Fox on board with that. I wouldn't mind a 3:30 game. I think a night game might be, too much for the tradition, but the 3:30 game might not be too bad.
I
So
wouldn't hate a 3:30 at all.
you have some kind of history behind the rivalry to get everybody amped up. So why don't you jump right into that, and we can go from there.
Yeah, man. So, there's not much. Everybody, unless you've been hiding under a rock for the last probably month and a half, knows what's going on. If you extend it back to the beginning of the season, everybody knows, kind of what's been going on in Michigan all year. Going back the last two seasons, the way those two seasons have ended for Ohio State, and the way the game has gone for Ohio State, which now we understand kind of the circumstance behind some of that stuff. Um, that all builds to what is going to culminate on Saturday at noon in Ann Arbor, and we are moving towards what could be one of the biggest college football games of maybe the last 10 years plus. I can't think of one bigger than what we're moving towards this week. And you take all the storylines, you take all the history of the game. We're talking Woody Hayes, we're talking Bo Schembechler, we're talking some historic players, some historic coaches. The tradition that comes when you think of this game, what this game means, not only to Ohio State fans, not only to Michigan fans, not only to college football fans, but to sports fans in general. This game is must-see television, and it has been must-see television forever. And this is what every Ohio State and Team Up North player this is what they dream of, and this is what it is. This is exactly what it should be. This is two undefeated teams in November battling for a spot in the Big Ten championship, and furthermore battling for a spot in the college football playoff. And when you sit back and you look at the scope of things, 60, 51, and 6 is the record all time in favor of the team up north. But when you kind of break it down, when football became football, the rivalry has been in Ohio State's possession, and those numbers are 40 and 30 since 1950, 39 and 30 if you look at the tattoo scandal that happened and took one of those wins away. 17 and 7 since 1997. And for all you history buffs out there, 1997 was the last time that Michigan shared a national championship. Haven't won an outright national championship since I don't even remember when. Michigan is sitting on two in a row, which is the first time that has happened since the Wolverines won two in a row in 1999 and 2000. This will also be the 14th time that Ohio State and Michigan have played as top five matchups. OSU holds a 7-5-1 record in those matchups. The stakes are huge. This is a big game for Ryan Day. This is a big game for the Wolverines without their head coach for obvious reasons. Sharon Moore is, fighting an uphill battle here, in my opinion. This would not be an easy game, even if Harbaugh was on the sidelines for Michigan. We've seen, a lot of speculation from the media as far as how hot is Ryan Day's seat with this game, and what is the pressure like in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And I think what we saw out of the Buckeyes in their media session today, the last media session before the game, there was a lot of fire in those players and in Ryan Day and in the coaches that we heard from. Denzel Burke says, we know exactly how much this means to us and what it means, and we're going to get it done for the state of Ohio. And that's the mindset here. And you want to talk about Michigan, who is saying, Michigan versus everyone, and Michigan against whatever they want to pit it against. It truly is Ohio against the world. That has been the mantra for years, way before Michigan adopted that catchphrase. It truly is Ohio against the world, Woody against the world, and they feel that. And they feel the weight of what Ohio State fans have placed upon their shoulders. And, I don't know if I can say any more than that. And if that doesn't pump you up and get you ready to go for this game, I don't know what will. The Buckeyes are ready to go, and they're looking forward to this game. Us as fans, we're all looking forward to this game. Ohio State played a game last week against Minnesota that nobody cares about anymore. The first 11 don't matter for either team, and we're here, and the game is coming up in a few short days. Noon start in a
Noon o'clock
cold
was right.
Ann Arbor. Yeah, it's close. Noon start in Ann Arbor. It's going to be cold. It's going to be rowdy, and I can't wait for it. I mean, this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it's really going to be an exciting matchup. When you look at just a correction for you, the last time that Michigan won a national title prior to the 1997 shared title was in 1948. So before football was actually football.
Right.
And yeah, I'm not sure that we're going to really claim that as something interesting. All time, it's been a series. I think that this one's going to be a knockout, drag-out fight. I think that this could look like something like the 2013 game, maybe. 2013 game where Tyvis Powell intercepted the 2-point conversion for Ohio State to win at the end of the game. I think it might be something like that. Or we may see the second ever overtime game in this rivalry. First being 2016 with Curtis Samuel taking it to the house. And I'm really excited for this one. I think that, going into it, animosity is going to be really high. You've got the delusional Michigan fans on one side and players and coach. And then you also have the extremely angry Ohio State fans, coaches and players. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few fights in the parking lot. I know that Michigan's trying to boycott game day because ESPN was mean to them. Sorry, guys, but ESPN has just raked Ohio State over the coals. We don't have any sympathy for you. We don't care.
No, nobody cares at this point. I mean, it's just there's no more victim. There's no more, no more hiding behind pomp and circumstance, and there's no, trying to bury yourselves in some sort of made up outrage controversy that everybody's against Michigan, and the college football playoff and ESPN are just out to get Michigan. First of all, you created the scenario for yourself. So that is what it is. But when you look at it for what it is, this is two teams that don't like each other, regardless of the cheating scandal, regardless of anything else. Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh do not like each other. It started with the born on third base garbage that Jim Harbaugh decided to come after Ryan Day as a coach and say in a presser a couple years ago. Which, by the way, I'd like to point something out here. I see a lot of this born on third base nonsense, and I would like to address this for just 1 second. So let me get this straight, Michigan fans. This is something that you're going to hold against Ryan Day for inheriting a team who has been successful. I don't really understand the logic behind that. You hold it against Ryan Day for Ohio State not being an absolute shambles over the last 25 years, and somehow that's his fault when Michigan couldn't hold on to the 4 or 5 coaches that they've had after Lloyd Carr, who, by the way, I believe was either 7-6 or 6-7 against the Buckeyes. So um, it's interesting to have this point of view that Ryan was just afforded this opportunity and was born on third base when really that's just projecting the fact that your program was an absolute shambles for however long. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting way to put things that you're going to hold this against Ryan Day. It's somehow it's his fault that he stepped into a good situation when all that's been at Michigan over the last 25 years have been horrible situations. So that's a weird thing to hold against the head coach. I don't really understand, what they're trying to get at there. They're bragging that their head coach is, in charge of a team that has been awful for a long time. So weird flex, but all right.
Yeah, cool, bro. Um,
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be a powder keg of a game. We may see, I think it was actually in that 2013 game where Dontre Wilson got into a bit of a
Hmm.
brawl. Marcus Freeman, or not Marcus Freeman, Marcus Hall let the crowd in Ann Arbor know how he felt about them, that they're the best crowd in the nation. Um, he gave him the bird, the
Yeah.
double
The
bird as
the old
well.
two gun
Very
salute.
iconic, the very iconic photo that you can see. Um, and I think that we may be in for another one of these. We may see some Charles Woodson um, fighting Ohio State receivers. Um, we may see that. We may see that. I don't know. Mike Sanders still might decide that he wants to go after Marv. I don't think that'll be a good idea, but um, good luck. But on that note, I think that both of these defenses are really good. And it's going to be which offense does not make the most mistakes going into the game.
Hmm.
Um, Ohio State and Michigan both 1-2 in scoring defense. Michigan with 9 points a game, Ohio State with 9.3 points per game. Um, Ohio State's giving up half a. They're both giving up about a half a touchdown in the run game and in the pass game a week. Um, Total offense very similar. The only difference that I'm seeing here, or sorry, total offensive yards given up 234 to 252. Michigan in favor there, but Ohio State actually gives up less per play at 4 versus Michigan's 4.2. With that, though, Ohio State typically lets an offense play 64 or 63.4 plays per game to Michigan's 55.8. Um, so you're talking about 7 plays that could be the difference. That's why I think that this game is going to come down to which offense can make less mistakes and which defense can force turnovers. Um, Michigan this year is averaging more turnovers a game at 1.7 versus Ohio State's 1. I think that is where we're going to have to look here. I think that Ohio State wins the battle against Michigan's offensive line in this game. Their offensive line is hot garbage compared to last year's or many of the other years that they've had in the past. Um, Not to say Ohio State's any better. We'll get into that in a moment. But I think that that's who's going to win those battles. And I think when we look at this, Ohio State's defense has the edge over Michigan's defense with the way that they're playing right now. So,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on the defensive side of the ball there?
I think I mean it's going to come down to can Ohio State get constant pressure and make JJ McCarthy uncomfortable, and I think with the way that we've seen guys start to play towards the end of the year, Mike Hall has missed a game. He will play on Saturday, but Jack Sawyer and the emergence of the way that he's really developed all year long has kind of been on an upward trajectory, and he started to really, really see some dividends pay last week, and he was a man unleashed last week. And that kind of performance is what Ohio State is going to need. And they're going to need JT Tuimoloau out to get to the quarterback. They're going to need Mike Hall and Tyleik Williams all to have a big game. Tommy Eichenberg will be back out on the field, and it'll be interesting to see how they kind of work those linebackers, how much playing time Cody Simon will get, what the snaps will look like for Steel Chambers. But I think that pressure and how they choose to go about bringing that pressure will be the key for Ohio State. And as far as the coverage goes on the outsides, a guy that's also just having an incredible season for the Buckeyes is Jordan Hancock. And, Jordan Hancock has, he may have screwed up a JT touchdown last week, but we will look past that, and that's okay. I don't know what's going on behind me on my TV. This is kind of, throwing me off a little bit, but we adapt and overcome as the Buckeyes have all season. And, it's again, another situation where Denzel Ward is having a big season for the Buckeyes, and he will need to continue that. And, it'll be interesting to see where they use Sonny and how they use Sonny. I think, there's a few things that he's shown that he can, a few different facets of his game that he's shown develop over the season. Being close to the line of scrimmage and shooting into the backfield and making plays. His coverage is, pretty good, but stands to improve. But it's going to be a big day for the Ohio State defense. It's going to be a big day for Jim Knowles. And I think, everything they've done all season is to get ready for this game, and that doesn't change year to year. That stands true every year. And when you look at what Michigan has looked like on offense the last couple of weeks, and especially last week, they are an offense that JJ McCarthy especially is subject to pressure, and when he gets that pressure, he makes bad decisions with the ball. So it's going to be imperative for Ohio State to bring that pressure all game and make it uncomfortable for those guys. And the run defense is going to have to be the main part of what we're going to see on Saturday. And if they can shut down Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum, I like the Buckeyes' chances here because I like what the secondary has shown. I like what that defensive line and really the linebackers over the last couple of weeks have looked better than they did in the middle of the season there. So it's time to see what Ohio State's defense is really about. And I think what we've seen all week and what we've heard from them, and there's no shortage of juice in that locker room. And they know exactly what's at stake this week, and I think they're primed and ready to make a statement there.
Yeah, I want to kind of go back to Jack Sawyer. He is the highest graded pass rusher on the team. I think overall highest graded pass rusher for all of FBS per PFF. Really, really turning out to be a great player. I said last weekend when I saw him, I said, he kind of looks like one of the Bosas. Because I think it's more so Nick Bosa rather than Joey Bosa. He's just got that head that is a neck. His arms are massive, his legs are massive, but he's not as tall. He just looks like a stump. Like just a 6'4" stump coming out of the ground that is ready to wreck you. So I'm really excited to see what he can do against this Michigan offensive line. I don't think, like I said, I don't think that they're going to be very good. I think you still have JT on the other side, which is a very good luxury. He's been known to play some tough games and be a really good player. Um, I think that right now Jack Sawyer is playing better than JT. Um, and I want to see a Penn State game out of JT
I think
against Michigan. I think you need something like that to make a difference because when JT gets back there, he forces turnovers. Um, and that was one thing we saw um, against Minnesota. You had both of them coming off the edge. One of them hits the quarterback, knocks the ball loose, and the other picks it up. So gotta come from both sides, and I think that this defensive line is really coming into their own. You've also got Tyleik Williams and a healthy Mike Hall coming back. That's pretty scary for the first unit. Then you've got guys like Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson who have both flashed, and I think that both of those guys will kind of step their game up. I think that, young guys in this game for Ohio State tend to have an impact if they are going to be that special player. Think about Chris Olave. He was a special player, and this is the game that he chose as a young guy to make an impact. And I don't think he chose. I think that there was a reason for it. Jermaine Matthews.
mhm.
How many teams in the country can say that they have four corners that they would put out there at first team? Because you've got Jordan Hancock, like you mentioned. You've got Igbinosun, who's a very serviceable number two corner, like good enough that he's still ahead of Jermaine Matthews. You've
and
got
has
Jermaine Matthews.
also and has
Mm-hmm.
also had a steady incline all season. I was very
Mm-hmm.
critical of Davison at the start of the season. He just kind of looked like things were maybe moving a little bit too fast for him.
Mm-hmm.
Really handsy, really aggressive. But as the season goes on, and you would much rather have him being a little too aggressive versus the latter in that situation. And I think credit to Tim Walton and Perry Eliano for the way that they've been able to coach these guys. There's been no drop off no matter who's been in the game. Davison has gotten much better all year long and
Mm-hmm.
has had some of his best games in the last month. So credit to Davison for really developing all year long into the player that he is, which is a bona fide number two on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got your number one quarter, Denzel Burke. I hate to say it and sound flippant about it because that is certainly not the case. But Jermaine Matthews and Denzel Burke, the drop off when Denzel Burke has been out has not been as noticeable as I thought it would be
Mm-hmm.
from Denzel to Jermaine Matthews. But that's not to say that Jermaine Matthews should be playing more than Davison or Denzel Burke. Both of those guys have made themselves the starters
Mm-hmm.
in this, and they've played that way. But man, that's great to have that depth there. You mentioned it a little earlier too, safeties.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Sonny Styles playing in Lathan Ransom's spot. Sonny was obviously playing more of a linebacker hybrid nickel role earlier in the season until Jordan Hancock said, dude, that's not happening, and kind of took that spot over as well. And again, that's not to say Sonny's not a fantastic player. I think he is, and they would have continued to make it work by those two sharing time in packages. But he does need to get a little better in coverage,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to have to do that. But him against the run is unstoppable. De- you know, if you see him creeping up, it's over. Josh Proctor can be the same way. Um, And again, he kind of needs to get a little better in coverage. So I think you're going to see a little bit of Jim Knowles try to force Michigan to make those big plays, because I don't think JJ McCarthy can at this point. You look at Penn State, their best matchup this season, he was 7 for 8 with 60 yards.
Hmm.
Pretty bad. I mean, yeah, it's an 87.5 completion percentage, and he also had 34 yards on the ground, but still, that's bad.
Context matters. Context
Yeah,
matters. Penn State brought
absolutely.
pressure. Penn State brought pressure. They realized that they could not throw the ball against that defense when they were bringing pressure, and they had to run the ball. And credit where credit's due. They ran the ball and they ran it well. But context matters, and a lot of
Mhm.
people, this whole we won and we didn't even have to throw the ball kind of thing. It's just that's not it. So yeah, that good performance out of him, good completion percentage, whatever. But the context in that situation points to they had to run the ball because they could not throw the ball.
Yeah, and I think that this is going to lead to Jim Knowles doing a couple of things. He's either going to show that safety in the box like he has against run heavy teams. Look at Notre
Mhm.
Dame, look at Wisconsin, even Minnesota last week. Sonny was in there making plays, doing things. They like that look anyway, but they may also simulate a lot of pressure coming from there and drop back to catch JJ off, because I don't think that JJ is as good of a passer as has been made out to be. Your last two games, 19 of 31, 201 yards, one interception, 61.3% completion percentage. His last two games, you're trending way down, dude. Not good. Um, and this guy was a quote unquote Heisman front runner a couple of weeks ago. Um, the trend does not look very good for him. However, in conference, he's 70.4 completion percentage, has thrown for 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only that single interception against Maryland. So pretty decent. Um, but I think that the Ohio State defense can and will really stop whatever it is that he's going to try to bring to the table. And I think that you're going to see Blake Corum, who's averaging 4.4 yards per carry on the season, get probably less than that. And that's in conference, by the way, because I figured we're going to compare things. So gotta stay within conference, and keep it consistent there. Blake Corum, Travion Henderson both have had really good seasons,
Mhm.
but I really do, to wrap up on the defensive part, I really do think that Ohio State's defense has the edge here. And I don't know about the offensive side of the ball. I'm not sure who has the edge, but I really think that it's going to come down to defensively for both teams who can create the necessary turnovers to win the game.
Yeah, and I think once again it comes down to pressure. And can Ohio State get home? And can Ohio State make JJ McCarthy's life hard when he's got the ball? And they got to make him make decisions and hell force him to use his legs a little bit. I think he's not 100%. If I'm not mistaken, he's been playing banged up a little bit here lately. So make him make decisions and try to force him to use his legs a little bit and see if you can make him uncomfortable in every way possible. And when you get a chance to hit him. And it's not to say go after the whistle or do anything crazy that will put you in harm's way and move the ball when Michigan is not by way of the penalty. But you got to be physical, and in order to win games like this, like this is not a normal game. And I think everybody's coach speak and player speak around this time and around these games is, we're just going to prepare like it's a normal game and like it's an everyday, situation. But the reality is it's not. And so, you're going to have to hit. You're going to have to hit hard,
Mhm.
and throw them off their game and stuff the run. And that's, if I think if Ohio State can stuff the run, try to make JJ beat them through the air, then I like Ohio State's chances here. But if Michigan gets whatever they want on the ground, which I don't think they will, because there's not a team that's played Ohio State yet that has done that. And they've played some pretty good backs to this
Mhm.
point this year. So um, I think if Ohio State's run defense can hold serve, and that defensive line can play the way that they've played all season, then I think it points in a good direction for Ohio State. So the Silver Bullets have had a hell of a season, and they're going to need a big performance this week to help get the job done. Turning it over to the offense, as we're done with the defense here. I think and it's not to take away from what Kyle McCord has done. But Kyle McCord has got to start fast, and he's got to stay in it through the entire first half. You can't have a game where you start off, you score on your opening drive, and then it's crickets for the next three or four.
Mhm.
This is a game where Michigan's got a good defense, as you mentioned. If they're not number one, they're number two in stats, and that's comparative to Ohio State. So, um, Michigan has a really good defense, and they've got some athletes out there, and they've got some big guys on that front. And they're going to be able to wreak some havoc, and the onus then falls on the offensive line. And you mentioned that we would get here, and we're here, and so the offensive line is a unit that has, I think, no doubt gotten better throughout the year. They've taken some, several steps forward, but they've also taken a few back at the same time. And you really can't. This is, again, as I mentioned on defense. This is a game where you cannot afford holding penalties. You cannot afford false starts. Those things will kill momentum, and they will kill you in this game. And it's happened the last couple of years. So it's going to be imperative that guys like Josh Fryer, and Josh Simmons, both in particular, I think are the two areas in which Ohio State, along with Carson Hinsman, are going to have their best games of the season. And I think it's no doubt that Josh Simmons has gotten better as the year has gone on. I think it was mentioned that he has not had a penalty in the last two or three Ohio State games. So that's going to have to be a trend that continues in this hostile environment that they're going to walk into this weekend. So where are you at? I see you've got some numbers here for Kyle McCord. So where are you at confidence wise with where Kyle McCord is, where his season has gone, and what's your confidence level in him leading this Ohio State offense into Ann Arbor this weekend?
Well, I think that Kyle McCord has really been on the uptrend here. In conference, he's thrown for about 66%, 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Kyle has had many of his mistakes made in the conference season, which you've got to limit in this game. So that's my big worry for Kyle. Over the last 2 weeks, though, he's played really well. Michigan State, 24 of 31, 355, 3 touchdowns, 77% completion percentage. Minnesota, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 66% completion percentage. So that's 72% completion over the last 2 weeks, 547 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So I think that you've got a Kyle McCord that's coming in with some momentum. He's strung it together the last couple of weeks. I think that they did get disjointed on offense, and I think part of that was Kyle's doing. And I he's just got to get better at making those plays when it's time to make those plays. And really I'm excited to see if he can take that step to become the next great Ohio State quarterback, because I don't think where he's at right now he is, but he can cement himself as that a great Ohio State quarterback if you go out and you ball out in this game.
I don't think by any means this will be his last time playing in this game. I do, I would expect Kyle to be back next year, and have another shot at this game. But as you mentioned, legends are born in this game, and this is where you can really elevate yourself, as you mentioned, in this program's standing, and there's a really big opportunity in front of Kyle. And I think what Kyle is going to have working for him is his cool and calm sense about him. He's not going to get too high for this game. He's not going to get too low for this game. I think he knows exactly what his job is in this game, and that's get the ball to the playmakers. And the best playmaker in the country is on your side, and he's wearing number 18. And you got to get him the ball, and that's that's what's going to be the key for Ohio State is get the ball to Marv early and often, and then let the game kind of develop after that. And in conjunction with Marv, you've got Emeka Egbuka, who had his best game since coming back last week, and he looked fast. He looked like he was able to make those plays that Emeka is used to making, and that to me gives this Ohio State offense an extra gear when you've got both of those guys out making plays. So the quicker Kyle can get both of those to the ball, the better for the Ohio State offense. And what I think this game is really going to come down to, and I think he has an opportunity to have an impact on this game the way that Ezekiel Elliott had an impact on this game, and that's TreVeyon Henderson. And let's talk about TreVeyon for a second. Against Michigan State, 13 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown. Against Minnesota, 15 carries, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not only that, in conference, TreVeyon Henderson has 86 carries, 546 yards, in 5 touchdowns in 5 games. He did miss some games earlier this season with an injury, but since he has been back and since he has been healthy, he has been an absolute difference maker for Ohio State. He's running the ball differently. He's attacking his jump cuts are deadly. He's attacking the defense in a completely different way than he was able to earlier in the season. He just looks a lot more comfortable, and I think really this could be a TreVeyon Henderson legacy type game. This is what the weather is going to be. It's going to be cold. It's going to be it's the end of November, and it's what football is supposed to be. It's what the game is supposed to be. And I think TreVeyon Henderson is hungry. I think he's ready to make an impact, and I think that this is going to be a huge game for TreVeyon Henderson in the rest of the Ohio State offense. So I think I would look for TreVeyon to make an impact and make it early with Marv and Emeka. I think they're going to need all 3 of them to be at their best and able to make the plays that Ohio State will need. And if they can get that out of all 3 of those guys, I like Ohio State's chances a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really need TreVeyon to come to play. You need Cade Stover and you need Marv. I think you also need one of Emeka, Carnell Tate, or Julian Fleming to step up and really be that difference maker. I think it's going to be Carnell Tate, wears number 17, just like Chris Olave did when he was a freshman and made a huge impact in this game. So look for Carnell Tate to be the secret weapon here on offense for Ohio State. And I really do think that this is going to be a fantastic matchup. It's probably going to be on the lower scoring end, though, just because I don't think either offense is really a prolific offense in what we would consider college football today, or at least in the last 10 years.
Mhm.
This might have been a really good offense in 2005, 6. Same with Michigan's. I mean, they would have been good then, but I can understand why they're not as good right now. I think Ohio State's scheme is really good, but I think that there's just some struggle to execute there. And we just need to go out there, hit some guys, and execute flawlessly. I think that this game is going to be that's what it's going to come down to. Who can execute and who can limit their mistakes, and which defense can create those opportunities.
Another guy that I think is going to be a big part in this game. You've seen what Chip Trainum has been able to do, and how important Chip has been to the offense at certain times in the year. But I think a name that not enough people are talking about here is Dallin Hayden. And I think if they can find ways to get Dallin Hayden the ball, not sure how many carries the offense is going to be able to afford him. But I would again, I love Chip. He's done a great job when his number's been called. But I would lean more with Dallin Hayden in this game than I would Chip Trainum. And if you can get a two back attack with Travion and Dallin Hayden to go with the receiving threat that we have. Get Marv his touches, get Emeka his touches, get Cade Stover the ball. This could be a big Cade Stover game too. And this is just there's a lot shaping up that's going to make this game really exciting. So we're moving towards that. If you had to give one key to this game on either side of the ball, one thing that you can point out that you would think is an important thing that Ohio State's going to have to do to get the job done, what would that key be?
I think the offensive line has to step up and show the progress that they have made. I don't think that you're going to win this game without the offensive or defensive lines winning their respective battles. Whoever does that wins the game. I think, and creates turnovers. I really think that it comes down to those two things: win the battle down low, and who creates more turnovers. I I don't think. I think this game always comes down to that,
Mm-hmm.
and um, you know, a lot of people want to say, oh, this or that, or this scheme, that scheme, this player, or whatever. No, it comes down to, can you win the battle in the trenches, and can you create turnovers or more mistakes than the other team? I think that it's going to be as simple as that, and we're going to see that on Saturday. And it's really going to be an interesting battle, and I'm excited to watch it. I'm pretty fired up at this point.
Yeah, I think for the majority of what we've seen in the media all year, and since the Michigan scandal has broke, and Harbaugh's been suspended, and all this kind of stuff. I think each team has their bulletin board material, so to speak. Neither of the coaches, as I mentioned earlier, like each other. Jim Harbaugh was asked earlier in the week, what his respect level is for Ohio State and the coaching staff and things like that. And Ryan Day was asked the same thing, and they both danced around the question and they didn't want to answer it. There are not any other rivalries in sports where the two teams at hand absolutely hate each other the way that Ohio State and Michigan do. And for a long time, the rivalry was kind of one sided when Ohio State was just beating Michigan's ass every year. That sense is kind of the tides have turned just a little bit. Michigan, has not reclaimed control of the rivalry like I think all of their fans claim to think they have. Um, they've won, and it's been proven that they've won the last 2 years with an unfair advantage. But they've won the last 2 years nonetheless, and Ohio State knows that. And there's a lot riding on this game. Not only for for Ryan Day, but for the rest of the Buckeyes. It's been mentioned that going back to the COVID year, that class that came in 2020 has not beaten Michigan yet. And going back the last 26 years, there aren't many Ohio State players that can say that they've never beaten Michigan, and that's a big thing for this Ohio State team, and that's a big thing for the fans. And so this is an important game. Nobody's discounting that. There's college football implications, college football playoff implications, Big
Hmm.
Ten championship implications. So, this is truly a game that means everything to both of these programs. It means everything to both of these fan bases. And in the landscape of college football, in the landscape of sports in general, there is not a rivalry that you will be able to find that gives you what this game is going to give you on Saturday in Ann Arbor. This is a can't miss game between two teams that have everything in front of them. This is a can't miss game for multiple reasons. It could be, the end of a few different eras for both of these teams. And, I think that Ohio State knows exactly what they have to do to win this game. And I think they are confident in their ability to win this game. Um, there's nothing more to do than to play it at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm ready to watch this game on Saturday. Final thoughts on score prediction for this one?
Um, I love, and first of all, neither one of us have acknowledged the fact that Ohio State is a 3.5 point underdog in this game, which, by the way, I love. I love Ohio State in an underdog role, and I love Ohio State in an underdog role on the road, even as a higher ranked team, which I assume will be the case once the college football playoff rankings come out here in a minute. But I think this will be a lower scoring game. I think this is going to be a bit of a fist fight, both maybe literally and figuratively. Um, I think Ohio State's going to be able to turn over JJ McCarthy, and I think they're going to need to do it in Michigan's territory at least a time or two, even. I think that will lead to a big time Ohio State touchdown. I think this one will be pretty close throughout, punch counter punch sort of game. I'm going to go Buckeyes 34, team up north 27.
Ooh, you think it's going to be that high scoring?
I do. I think Ohio State's going to get an opportunity to turn JJ McCarthy over in his own zone, and I think Ohio State's going to be able to score a timely touchdown there. Where a game is as close as this one is going to be, they're going to need something like that, and I think the defense can deliver that. So I'm going to go out and make a bold prediction here. We're going to get a Denzel Ward pick six that's going to really turn this game on its head in Ohio State's favor.
I like
34-27 Buckeyes.
I like that. I think it's going to be a 17-10 victory for Ohio State.
Okay.
I think this is going to be low scoring, just like we saw with both Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, Penn State. I think it's going to be low scoring defensive battle, and it's gonna come down to a turnover. And I don't know if it's going to be a pick six or if it's going to be, or if it's just going to be a regular variety turnover. Because and then Ohio State goes and scores, but I think that it's going to come down to that, and 17-10. Good guys.
And I think that's in the realm of possibility. I don't really know what to expect in this game, because when it comes down to these two teams in this game with this much on the table, anything can happen. And we've seen a lot of that all year long. There's been all kinds of parity across college football. I don't expect that to end this weekend. College football. Is the eyes of college football and the eyes of the country will be on this game at noon on Fox. College Game Day will be there. Big Noon Kickoff will be there. I assume Big Ten Network whatever that show is called will be there. So there will be no shortage of hype around this game. It is Tuesday at about 7:30 as we sit here, so the hype is only going to build as we get closer and closer and closer to Saturday. Guys, thank you once again. This is our first breakdown of the game on High Street Sports. It has been a fun regular season all year long. I can't believe it's already coming to an end here, but we've enjoyed being here every week to give you guys some Buckeye news and banter all season long. So if you would like, comment, subscribe, share the podcast. Let somebody that that hasn't heard us share the message. Get them on board. We will be here, through this weekend and beyond as Ohio State continues to make their run towards a college football playoff national championship, and it will come to a head this weekend in Ann Arbor. Vince, any final thoughts?
It's time for war.
It's time for war. As simple as that. For Vince, I'm Chris. This has been High Street Sports. Thanks.